What happens when former NBA All-Star turned podcaster decides to just recently call out the Cavaliers' lack of physicality, the Cavaliers' lack of leadership, and how poor their attitude was heading into the Indiana Pacers series. And now that the series is over, it really starting to look like that this former NBA All-Star threw shots that might be pretty accurate, and we've talked about a lot of them, like the lack of physicality and lack of leadership. In my most recent video, I talked about lack of leadership and who can be added to change that. But who was this former NBA All-Star? You saw it in the intro, but let's break that down here in just a second. But go ahead and hit the subscribe button as you get all these fun updates, like people calling out some drama, trash talk, whatever. But you also get those trade rumors, those trade proposals, free agency signings, injuries, lineup changes, post-game reactions, everything here on Cavs Digest from me and Billy. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm Matt Palange here for you guys today. Let's break down Kenyon Martin's thoughts about the Cavaliers' lack of physicality. And there's going to be a lot to discuss about it because it's going to be a lot of opinions from me and a lot of opinions from you guys as well. So we're going to start by talking about Kenyon Martin, what he had to say about the Cavaliers. Just a lot of throwing shade. He said this all 2 days ago on the 17th. So let's see what he had to say about the Cavaliers players. You don't suit up, bro. Give me something. We're already down Darius Garland. We know he ain't healthy. We know this going into it. He missed game 1, so him playing in game 2 is slim and none. We've got to this point, DeAndre Hunter. When you came in, we started playing better. Evan Mobley, we rely on you nightly. It ain't just your points, it's your defensive presence. It's you being out there. It's something that we could use. When they didn't play in game 2, I'm like, oh man, they ain't going to beat nobody. Ain't got no heart. If I'm Donovan Mitchell, I'm going to that mother effer like, yo, man, we got to do something. Whoever you've got to go get, whoever you've got to get rid of, says former NBA All-Star Kenyon Martin. It's a little, it's kind of bold, I guess. He's saying that, these guys don't have heart. So we're kind of going to talk about the injuries that happened in the Pacers series and kind of how, what Kenyon Martin says, what parts are true. Obviously, I've mentioned the lack of leadership from these guys and how I've stood on it. But the first thing is these 3 guys did not play in game 2. How much direct call out? He didn't really call them out in any negative way. He kind of saying, well, these guys aren't going to play, although they probably should play. I know he tweeted something like a sprained toe, making fun of it, but I don't think it was about Darius Garland. That's why I'm confused. So I'm just kind of stuck here on this whole Kenyon Martin stuff. Is when he throws this shade, how accurate is it that these guys don't have heart, that these guys don't have leadership, specifically to guys like Donovan Mitchell, who he said, you got to go up to him and be like, you know what, you have no heart. This is the best player on the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is the guy that needs to be the leader. This is the guy that needs to step up vocally, physically, everything. This is mentally. This guy needs to step up when it matters the most. When guys aren't injured, he needs to be the guy that steps in. And it really, really seems like that he doesn't have that leadership. It seems like Donovan Mitchell is not a good leader, and that's what sucks is he's a phenomenal player. And you look at his statistical averages in the playoffs, he's actually one of the all-time performers scoring-wise in the playoffs. But right now, it just really, really seems like there is a lack of leadership from Donovan Mitchell, and that's what is starting to get scary. So let's go on and look into let's continue looking on to the players that he called out in. Let's just kind of talk about leadership. Obviously, these 2 guys did not play. Are they soft or are they just not able to play? Because how much of you being able to play is in control of these 2 guys? Like Mobley has an injury. How bad was it? If a doctor says no matter what, if you play on this, you're not gonna be able to move. You're not even gonna if you play on it, you're gonna require surgery. How much of it is on their fault versus how much of it is just it being an injury. But the other thing I want to add, how much of consistent injuries is your fault? Because we've seen that the Cavs are very clearly soft, and they've gotten injured the last 3 years in the playoffs, specifically the last 2 years more than likely. So the playoffs, Pacers, they get brutal, it gets bloodied, they're a brutal team, and that's how the NBA playoffs works. That's how the game of basketball works. Can you train yourself to continue to stay physical and be able to stay healthy? I put some blame on Kenny Atkinson here for a couple reasons, because I feel like maybe Kenny Atkinson is not a strong leader. Maybe he is not vocal enough. Maybe he is making bad decisions, because personally I think that he got outcoached very, very badly in the Indiana Pacers series. And I mean, these are two players that he called out specifically, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, that Kenyon Martin called out. I mean, there's just no way that he was just so bold about it. But he called out two guys that we just know have so much talent. It all comes down to the execution, because you could be the most talented player ever, but it comes down to how much of like your talent can be brushed off to your leadership, can be brought onto the other players around you, can be brought onto your effort. No matter how talented you are, how many buckets you can get, how many passes you can make, you have to be able to give 110% every single game, especially in the playoffs, which is so disappointing that they do not have that. And Kenny Atkinson, we know he has a better play style than JB Bickerstaff, and that's what's really big to me, is that yes, he can perform and win more games than JB Bickerstaff could, but does he have a lack of leadership? Because it seems like Bickerstaff was also not as physical. We really need someone to be physical, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to not just them, but also these two guys right here. The owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert, and the general manager, Koby Altman. Can these two guys find a way to get this team more physical? Whether you make changes or you don't. Whether you get LeBron, whether you get Giannis, which you can't even do really unless you get them for cheap or something. All this second apron crap we've been talking about so much. But can they even make a proper change to get this team more physical? It is physically impossible to get a big name via trade. But can you add a physical force? Can you add a veteran leader? Like you had Tristan Thompson, who I'm pretty sure would love to throw an elbow against the Indiana Pacers, but he's so bad. Like he's not really bad. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to insult the guy too much, but you know what I'm saying. He's a bad performer at his current stage in the league, and it's even his leadership obviously didn't rub off to others. Donovan Mitchell needs to step up as a leader, and he needs to admit that he's struggling as a leader. That's the first thing. It comes down to, can these guys be leaders? Can Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and we've been talking about getting a backup center all year long. We've been wanting a backup center all year long. And when Evan Mobley goes down, because Evan Mobley is now not as soft as he used to be, which is great. That's the first thing. You saw Evan Mobley would hit the weight room. He improved so much to be more physical and be a better force down low other than shot blocking. He managed to get better at it. It just comes down to everybody else. There are so many other guys. Donovan Mitchell improving his leadership. These two guys being able to stay healthy, and is Darius Garland even worth it to stay on the Cavs jersey anymore? Can Koby Altman and Dan Gilbert make changes to get this team more physical? And can Kenny Atkinson be more vocal and be a better head coach when it comes to the physicality? We know what this team is capable of performance-wise, or at least at their best. Play on the court what they do on the court. Can they be more physical when a team runs at them in the playoffs? That has been the biggest problem. How can they do that? And what did Kenyon Martin say? Is it right? Show you what he said one more time just in case you missed it. Redo that quickly. Pause it if you have to. Kenyon Martin calls out the Cavs. How accurate is what he said? Is it on the players for getting hurt? Like, are they way too soft, and then that leads to more injuries? Because the more pain you take on a certain body part, you're obviously more likely to get injured. The less physical you are, the less controlled you are of your body, you end up being more likely to get injured. So is there a lot of blame you could put on the players, or is it more just them getting unlucky? How much of the Cavs' physicality can be improved? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you guys for joining me here on Cavs Digest.